6 weeks after a teenager was murdered in Punta Gorda, the search for his killer continues. 18-year-old Kyle Farishian's body was found inside a burned-out 7-Eleven on Ball Harbor Drive in Punta Gorda.
When Kyle Farishian went to work a night shift at his new job, he could have never have known that that would be his last few hours of life. In the early hours of the 1st of November 2015, following on from Halloween night, 18-year-old Kyle Farishian was working the night shift at his new job at a 7-Eleven store in the idyllic, picturesque city of Punta Gorda, southwest Florida. Only 5 hours after starting his shift, at just after 3 a.m. in the morning, police received the following 911 call.
911, where's your emergency? A Kia 7-Eleven. What's the address there? I don't know the address, but someone is on fire laying inside. Excuse me? Someone is on fire laying inside. Do you know the address? It's 1121 Kia. Someone's on fire? Yes, someone is laying on the floor inside on fire.
Police responded quickly, only to find a horrifying scene. As they pulled into the vacant parking lot, they could immediately see the 7-Eleven ablaze, with Kyle's lifeless body laying on the floor in front of the counter, also on fire. So how and why did this horrific crime come to happen? The reason why will shock you, and make you rethink how you interact with the general public. To understand what had occurred, the police's first action was to access, then analyse the store's CCTV footage, which luckily had survived the fire. Upon review of these tapes, it immediately became clear what had happened to Kyle that Halloween night. The suspect swiftly enters the store and quickly hides behind the aisles, which in turn triggers the sound of the door, sparking Kyle's attention. Kyle scans the store to see if he can locate the person, likely in order to welcome the customer and offer assistance. Although the way Kyle walks indicates he is already slightly suspicious at this point, as he can see no one. Kyle then turns around, continuing to scan the store. Once Kyle reaches the third aisle, a hooded figure is seen to ambush Kyle, shooting him directly in the head, with Kyle dropping to the floor. Then as Kyle is laying on the floor, the suspect once again shoots him in the head. Following this, the suspect goes on to then pour petrol over Kyle's lifeless body, then the counter, going on to grab a lighter from the counter, sparking a flame that immediately set the place ablaze. The suspect then quickly exits the store, taking a total of just 1 minute and 18 seconds to commit such a heinous crime. Whilst the police could clearly see what had happened on CCTV, they couldn't understand why it had happened. And as the suspect came prepared with dark clothes, latex gloves, and a petrol canister, yet did not even attempt to steal anything, this led the police to conclude that the motive was most definitely not robbery, leaving investigators struggling to come up with a motive for the crime. Initially, the police were skeptical of the 911 caller's story, as when police arrived at the scene, the parking lot was vacant and the callers had left, which police deemed to be suspicious, so they brought them in for questioning.
So I went to go get cigarettes last night, about 3 in the morning, and I pulled into 7-Eleven, and I saw the lights were off inside, and I saw the person laying there was on fire, and there was like blood around them. At the store time, because I didn't know if he was still there, because it looked like the fire had just started, and my boyfriend was saying, go, 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 go. So I was like, yeah, panicking.
Do you have any idea what happened?
I have no idea.
Or how it happened, anything like
I
that?
have no idea.
Perjury is a serious crime. You understand what I've explained about perjury?
Yes, sir.
Start from the beginning. What exactly?
Okay, so I got off work about 9 o'clock, drove my back home from work, as we're pulling up, we could see it's dark, right? And we didn't know, it was just like, whatever. And then she said it's on fire. And as we got closer, pulling in, we could see it was blazing. And then she pulled up right in front of the door, making out the car, and we just looked. And that's when I could see a kid in front of the counter.
My boyfriend said that he saw fire on the counter, like someone poured gasoline on the counter.
Why did you wait for the officers?
What?
Why did you leave?
Damn, it was kind of freaky, dude. I mean, the place is on fire,
Okay. Why did you stick around?
It looked like it had like just started, and I was just like, so just go. Is the person going to be here still?
Dude, like I said, we came back. I'm gonna tell you, I'm not, I'm just asking. I'm trying to explain to you the best I can, man.
Whilst interrogating the two callers, they realised that the male had some distinctive tattoos on his right hand, and when compared to the CCTV images, they could clearly see that when the suspect removed their glove, they had no tattoos on their right hand, ultimately ruling them out of the investigation. Also, on closer inspection of the CCTV, they could also see the 911 caller's vehicle lights arrive and depart, and when compared to the timing of the attacks, it was concluded that it couldn't possibly be them, so they were both ruled out of the investigation. It was ultimately revealed through questioning that the couple had left due to fear of the attacker still being on the premises. 2 days after the murder, struggling to come up with any new leads, police interviewed Kyle's colleagues at the 7-Eleven and come to understand that there was recently 2 incidents with a regular customer of the store, whereby the customer wished to purchase alcohol but got asked for identification. When the member of staff asked the patron to remove his ID from his wallet for further verification, an argument ensued, as he refused to do so. The argument then goes back and forth, in the end resulting with the customer being barred from the store. Just to quickly note, in this first clip you can see Kyle shadowing the female member of staff, most likely as she was training him as he was new to the store.
Every day.
My name is Lori. Yes, and his name is Vicky.
Will do. Have a great day.
Call the police. Get away from me.
You want to call the police? That's fine.
Yeah, put her harassing us. I want right here. On the phone.
Look at the eyes.
A number of days after the initial incident, the patron returned to buy some more alcoholic beverages, where another argument arose when the customer was told he was barred and wouldn't be served. Yet another member of staff ultimately served the patron.
Lori is the young man that I've been barred. He's walking through the door. No, he's barred from here. Maria, I'm not telling you. He's trespassing.
No, you are trespassing. You're so fired.
The member of staff that had originally barred the customer then followed him out of the store to his car where they recorded his license plate number, which resulted in what looks like a threat to run the member of staff over with his car. After this, the patron immediately then drove off and the police were called. It was ultimately through the recording of the vehicle's license plate number that gave the police their first breakthrough, leading to the identification of the patron as Michael Russo, aged 28, also living in Punta Gorda. Following the incidents, police issued Russo with a 1-year trespass order from the 7-Eleven in question. Once they had identified their suspect, within less than a week of the incident, they applied for, then executed a search warrant at Russo's home address, which was less than a mile from the 7-Eleven. There was a significant search of not only Michael Russo's house, but also the police sent dive teams to scour the lake near Russo's address. In the raid, the police were able to locate some physical evidence, such as the same colour latex gloves and the same type of petrol canisters used in the attack. Other items found in the raid were 2 guns, a pistol and an AR-15, along with ammunition, though unfortunately the police were unable to recover the murder weapon, which was a revolver. Whilst they didn't find the murder weapon, they did however find several red gas canisters, which at first were very promising. But the police did have an issue, as although the canisters looked the same as the one in the CCTV, the police feared that if it was to go to court, a good solicitor could muddy the waters by claiming they are a very common model and colour, so the police went back to the drawing board. And on closer inspection, the canister with the nozzle attached had a small number of paint drops on the handle of the canister. They then went back to the CCTV footage and realised they could just about make out the same white paint spots on the canister used in the attack. This then confirmed to them that they have the correct suspect and were much more confident they could present it to a jury and have a positive outcome. They then sought other ways to connect Russo to the crime, and acquired experts to compare the height, weight and gait of the suspect to that of the one in the CCTV footage. And when they all lined up, at that point they were convinced they had the right man. And on Wednesday, the 6th of April 2016, they acted on that arrest of Russo and took him into custody.
Well, good evening and thank you all for coming. On November 1st, 2015, the Punta Gorda Police and Fire Departments responded to the 7-Eleven in Punta Gorda Isles in reference to a building that was on fire. After the fire was extinguished, the deceased body of Kyle Farishian, the 18-year-old clerk on duty, was found inside. Store surveillance video depicted all of the unthinkable events that occurred, and his death was determined to be a homicide. After more than 5 months of intense investigation by our detectives and several other law enforcement agencies, an arrest has been made in the case. Today, an arrest warrant was issued for Michael Russo, 28 years old, of 2105 Deborah Drive here in Punta Gorda. He was taken into custody just a few hours ago by Punta Gorda police detectives and the Charlotte County SWAT team without incident on the charges of murder and arson. All of the evidence supports at this time that he is the sole person responsible for this crime. The investigation still remains very active. At this point in time, we believe the motive was related to 2 incidents in which he was ultimately trespassed and forbidden to come back to the store. This crime devastated a family and shocked our community. Although this arrest will not bring him back, we hope that it will allow the family to begin the healing process.
Whilst he was raided within a week of the crime, it wasn't until just over 5 months after the murder that Michael Russo was officially arrested and charged with murder. Some community members questioned why it had taken so long when they identified the key individual very early in the investigation, but the police were patient and wanted to wait until they had all their ducks in a row, per se, until they pounced, giving them the greatest chance of winning in court. Russo went to trial just over a year later, on May the 30th, 2017.
I decided I'm not going to.
Michael Russo opted to not testify in the trial, accusing him of second-degree murder and arson.
Kyle didn't know that night would be the last of his life.
In closing arguments, prosecutors pointed out similarities between Russo and the man seen on surveillance video killing 18-year-old Kyle Farishian on Halloween night in 2015 inside a Punta Gorda 7-Eleven.
The defendant fits. He fits from shoulders down, right into the same spot. It's because it's him, members of the jury.
But Russo's attorney tells the jury it's simply not enough.
No fibers, no hair, no DNA, and on and on and on and on. Nothing. Absolutely goose egg nothing.
With limited physical evidence that Mark DeSisto says does not point to his client.
You got to really look at all the evidence, or lack thereof.
But the state pushed the jury to see otherwise.
Same race, he's the same body type, same height. He's the only person that had a problem with that store since it opened 4 years prior.
Convicted killer showed little signs of emotion, solemnly walking into court as he always has. But for family of Kyle Farishian, it was an emotional day.
Our loss lives with us every day, and it will forever.
The victim's grandfather spoke in court, and Kyle's stepdad wrote the judge a letter read by the prosecutor.
We destroyed every holiday, birthday, and everything of our lives by murdering him.
The judge handing down the maximum sentence, life for murder and 30 years for arson.
Because there's a lot of premeditation that Russo put into this, and the judge gave an appropriate sentence to a really dangerous person.
The 29-year-old hardly reacted to the announcement, his attorney saying there's more work to be done.
But we'll be filing the appeal. We have the paperwork prepared.
But more than a year after the horrific murder, Kyle Farishian's family says they're grateful for some resolution.
We're just thankful that the judge made the right decision.
Russo was ultimately found guilty of second-degree murder and first-degree arson, receiving a life sentence for the murder, plus 30 years for the arson, to serve consecutively to one another. He is now serving his time at Central Florida Reception Center in Orlando, Florida. During the research for this case, I have been continuously trying to fathom just how tragic this was for Kyle. Kyle wasn't even involved in the original incident that became the catalyst for Russo's outburst, yet Kyle was his only victim. Kyle was going about his life, just trying to earn some extra cash, and was unlucky enough to be the only member of staff on shift the night Russo exacted his revenge. And in turn, he has not only ended the life of a completely innocent young man, and left Kyle's family traumatized and in pieces, but Russo has also thrown away his own life at the same time. It is shocking how all of these consequences stem from simply being asked to remove identification from his wallet. This is a prime example of the way one person reacts to something could be the total opposite to the way another person reacts to that same situation. One person in this situation may have went home, kicked back and enjoyed the rest of their evening, whilst another may plot and execute a horrifying revenge attack. It just goes to show that you never truly know what's happening in someone's mind, and it may just be the thing that breaks the camel's back, so it's always best to tread carefully in situations like this. Whilst making this piece, I have watched a lot of interviews of the friends and family of Kyle, and every single one of them only had bright things to say about this young man. He just happened to be in the very wrong place at the very wrong time, which is just so unfortunate. I hope Kyle's family are able to pick up the pieces and move forward with their lives. Though no doubt there will always be a Kyle-sized hole in their hearts. Nobody ever thinks that something so horrific such as this may happen to them, but this case just goes to show it can happen to anyone for any number of reasons. So hold your loved ones close, as you never know when the day may come when something similar to this could happen to you, or someone close to you. My deepest condolences to Kyle's family and friends. Keep safe out there, people, and thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe to B.I.A. I'd love to hear your thoughts down below.